How you doing?
Hey! Ho-ho! 88.5 FM, Saturday again. How you doing? Me too. However your answer was, me too. Okay, I'm going to write a song right now. It's called The 5th of September, okay? And here's what I got. So the drum part starts like this, right? And then the song starts and it goes, it was the 5th of September. Okay? And the drum part just, that's all there is, singing or lyrics. But the drum part just goes till next Saturday. What do you think?
How you doing?
Has anybody ever written a song that's a week long? Well, another first for Joe Walsh. Okay, hey, how you doing? Enough messing around. Let's get 4 songs underneath our belt. My guest this week is David Crosby, special guy. And we had a good 20-minute visit. That'll come up at 8 o'clock. It's too good to do pieces of it during the show. It's got to be the whole thing. So, 8 o'clock, David Crosby. And between now and then, plus minus 2 hours of music. Here's 4 songs, and then we'll talk some more. How you doing? I hope it's kind of some kind of head nodding up and down instead of left and right. See you in a bit. Joe Walsh here. Saturday again. Welcome to the show. We just heard I Feel Free from Fresh Cream. The first Cream album came out in 1966. Wow. I was a year out of high school in a dormitory going to college at Kent State University when that song came out, and I heard that, and that was a wake-up call. I said, that's what I want to do. And 3 years later, James Gang opened for Cream at the Grandee Ballroom in Detroit. Careful what you pray for. Busy Being Fabulous from the Long Road Out of Eden Eagles album. That's yet another great Don Henley song. Rough Boy. That's the only ballad from ZZ Top that I know of. If you're going to do a ballad, you can't do better than that. And the last thing we heard is called Down the Road. I played slide on that. That's a band called Manassas, which was Stephen Still's band. 1973, he lived in Colorado, and I did too. A little-known all-star band. We should revisit some other Manassas songs next week. I'll put that on my list. And there you go. More music to come. Don't forget David Crosby at 8 o'clock. We'll be back after this. Hi, this is Joe Walsh. Thanks very much to everyone who kindly donated to 88.5 FM in support of my show. If you haven't yet made your pledge, you can still donate online at 885fm.org. Joe Walsh here. That last song you heard is called Running Wild. It's by a guy named Billy Rafoul, Raffoul. Billy's about 23 years old, Ontario, Canada. I think he's in Nashville now. But I think he's brilliant, and you should check him out. Okay, and then it's time for Ask Joe question, which is listener questions. And there's a couple really good ones this week. One from Marcus in Dallas, Texas. He wanted to know about the talk box. And that's the thing in my song Life's Been Good in the middle of it, that everybody says, what the hell is that, Joe? And so I'd like to explain that next week in a segment. And then Jeff asked me about guitar instrumentals, records that were influences for me. And I've been thinking about doing that, so I'm going to take about 5 of those and make those a segment. We'll do both of those next week. Besides those 2 next week, let's do a Just Ask Joe right now.
Just Ask Joe.
This question is from Bob Nelson from Cloquet, Minnesota. Hey, Joe, what kind of Maserati did you have? Did you go 185? How'd you lose your license? Got to be a story there. Thanks for doing your show and being a part of 88.5 FM. You rock, Bob.
Hey, Bob, how you doing? Thanks for the question. I didn't really have a Maserati. I just pretended I did for the song. But when people would ask me about my Maserati, when I said I don't really have one, the look of sadness in their faces was such that I decided I better buy one. So I can say, oh yeah, I have one. Then they said, does it really do 185? And I don't know. It's black and it goes very fast. I estimate that it would go 185. At 110, I still had 2 more gears to go. And so I estimated that it would probably go 185, but I never really experienced that. And I didn't really lose my license. I lost my wallet, and my license was in it. So I hope that clears all that up for you. Thanks a lot.
Just ask Joe.
This question is from Dylan Butler, a 29-year-old musician from Rhode Island. Joe, when you were writing and recording your solo albums, was there a sense of freedom you didn't have with the Eagles? Was the writing, practicing, recording process totally different? How did you select or meet your band members for your solo albums? I love everything from Barnstorm to Analog Man. Keep being awesome, Joe. You are a huge influence and role model. Thanks, Dylan.
Hey, Dylan. How you doing? Thanks for the question. For a solo album project, usually you'll surround yourself with musicians that you know and that you've worked with before, so you can be on the same planet thinking-wise. The agreement is, of course, it's your album and they will take direction from you. That's kind of a given. If somebody asks you to play on their album, they're going to call the shots. A solo album gives you more freedom to do anything you want musically. Usually you will value the input of the other people. And a true band is wonderful in the studio, except a true band, there's more than one alpha. And you have to navigate and manage any alpha type collisions, and that can get complex. But a band vote on direction works wonderfully. I very much value being in a band and making music. But solo album, the other thing that happens is that there are non-musical things that you have to decide and deal with, because you're the boss and it's your football. And those can be very distracting. They can load you down. So to summarize, I've had the best of both worlds. In the Eagles I was part of and my solo projects, I got to call the shots. And that's a blessing. And I hope I answered your question. Thanks. Hi, this is Joe Walsh. Thanks very much to everyone who kindly donated to 88.5 FM in support of my show. If you haven't yet made your pledge, you can still donate online at 885fm.org. Joe Walsh here. That was Slow Dancing in a Burning Room. That's John Mayer. John's a great musician and a great guitar player. So we got 4 songs to go. Stepping Out, Joe Jackson. Song called 1901 by Phoenix. Song from me called 15 Years. That's about being on the road. And then we'll go out with To the Morning by Dan Fogelberg from his first album. It's a wonderful song. If you can, just sit down and try and be still and listen to Dan Fogelberg at his best. And we're getting ready for David Crosby, plus minus 8 o'clock. Had a great visit with him, and we'll share that with you. So I hope you've enjoyed the show this week. I sure have. I'd like to remind you that 88.5 FM is a listener-funded station. If you'd care to donate or make a contribution so that the station can continue to do what it does, I would thank you, and it would be very much appreciated. Wear a mask, wash your hands, stay away from people you don't know, don't swear in church, don't kick your dog, and we'll see you next week. Stay tuned for My Visit with David Crosby.
88.5 FM, KCSN, and KCSN HD1 Northridge, Los Angeles. KSBR and KSBR HD1 Mission Viejo. A service of California State University Northridge and Saddleback College. Member-supported public radio. Streaming on the web at 88.5fm.org.
My guest this week is David Crosby. Okay, David, thanks for doing this.
It's fun. Good to see your face. I actually, and I'm sure this is some sort of character defect, but I miss you when I don't see you.
Well, I miss you too, man. All right, first thing I want to say is that you have a biodoc that's out now called Remember My Name. And it's on Hulu and Starz, and it's produced by Cameron Crowe. Cameron was my guest here back a ways. Isn't he a hoot?
What a guy, man.
Yeah.
I've loved him. You know, when I first met him, Joe, he was like 16 years old, and he came around, I don't know how he got the job with Rolling Stone, but he came around and started hanging out with us, and, we, of course, introduced him to girls and stuck a joint in his mouth and got in trouble with his mom, and it was a truly great story. And we loved him because he was the brightest kid any of us had ever met.
Yeah.
So I've been friends with him ever since.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful friendship. He's a really, really wonderful and tremendously creative guy.
Yeah. I know you, and I just have to say you're one of the very few people I have ever met who speaks their mind. It's the truth. And it's straight across, and you're not that concerned about the repercussions or the hazards. You've always been that way with me. And Remember My Name, I think you did that. And that's the thing about your biodoc that I really love.
Well, there's more than one way of looking at it. That's how I look at it too, man. I think it was remarkably open. But other people just say, well, he doesn't have the ability to censor himself very well. And that's true. I have shot my mouth off repeatedly, as you know, as we can both remember, many times. So I am a remarkably uncensored person, not necessarily on purpose. I wish I could take credit for it, as like a moral decision, but it's really, I'm just kind of loose that way, and I've had to live with it, the results.
I love you for it. You get a go to jail, get out of jail free card with me.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, so look, 1965, you're in the Birds already.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a senior in high school. And I'm like, duh. And you're on top of the world. And what was it like being in the Birds? Did you guys really know what you were doing? Because it sure looked it.
No, we didn't know. We absolutely did not know. Roger had a pretty good idea what he was doing. He'd been a working musician for several years already. I had only been a folk singer in coffee houses, which isn't really doesn't teach you a hell of a lot except how to relate to an audience. I don't think we knew what we were doing. I think we lucked out, man. We had a really good songwriter in Gene Clark. We had a guy who could take Dylan songs and make arrangements of them that were better than anybody else's have ever been. Mm-hmm. And we had really pretty good band sound that kind of just evolved. I think part of it was we put that band together in a place called... It was a jazz studio on 3rd Street in Boys Town. After they finished with the recording, that they got paid for, they would let us use the studio to rehearse in.
Right.
So at night, we would be in there, and it short-circuited the process, the garage band process that takes years normally.
Right.
Because we had to listen to ourselves. That bastard Jim Dixon would tape us and then play it back, and that was a horror show.
Right.
And so that short-circuited the process a lot. And we were terrifically lucky.
You guys were so ahead of the curve. And I think
We were
that's...
kind of out there on the front edge of what was going on in California anyway, until the San Francisco bands lit off. And
Right.
then we wanted to be more like them. When we started out, man, the only other band in town was the Beach Boys and the Raiders. And they both wore uniforms.
Right.
And the Raiders did dance steps and stood on their amps.
Yeah, I remember that. Well, most everybody was still in Laurel Canyon trying to figure out how to play.
If you had seen us, Joe, I saw George and John, had like various guitars, but I saw that Gretsch, not a country gentleman, it was the Gretsch Tennessean.
Yeah.
The first Gretsch I saw George playing, and I said, okay, I got to have you one of those.
Yeah.
So I went and bought a Gretsch Tennessean. Now here's the picture. I'm standing in front of a big mirror in a rented apartment of a friend, and I've got a strap on the guitar, long strap, and I'm trying to figure out how to hold it. And I got the neck way down, I got it way tilted way down. I got it tilted way up. I'm holding it out in front of me. I'm trying to shake it. I'm trying to wiggle it. It was hysterical, man. If you had seen it, you'd still be laughing.
And the next thing is you end up at Woodstock.
Did I ever tell you my Woodstock story?
No.
There's never been a gathering that big that I know of where nobody got murdered, nobody got raped, nobody got robbed.
Absolutely.
Never. Not even religious gatherings.
Yeah.
And this one, nobody did. And I'll tell you my story. So I'm walking around, and I see a cop. He pulled up in his car, and he's just gotten out, and he's just come on duty, and he's just spiffy. He's got a crease in his pants, man, that you could cut a steak with. He's shiny clean and very, very polished up. His shoes are polished bright. He looks like a poster, okay? Now, about 50 feet from him, I see this girl. She's walking in the mud. She's barefoot. She's got long, pretty legs. She's a very pretty girl. Short dress, blonde. And she steps on a piece of glass in the mud, and she cries out, pulls her foot up, and stands there like a stork on one leg and bleeding like crazy. It's a big piece of glass, and it's a serious cut. It's really bleeding. So this state trooper, who I was looking at as an enemy, because that's how we saw cops, right?
Yeah.
Walks confidently right into the mud with his shiny shoes, gets it all over his pants and his shoes, goes to the girl and gently, in a very gentlemanly way, picks her up and carries her to his car. Opens the car, lays her gently and really, really respectfully, really nicely into the back seat. And then about 14 hippies pushed the car out of the mud because he couldn't get it going. And I thought, okay, this is working for me. This is how I want people to treat each other. I like this. This is my world. There was something going on in terms of how people treated each other. That's the truth. You can't buy it. You can't sell it. They can't reproduce it. They've tried repeatedly.
Yes.
And failed miserably because they don't understand what it was that happened. They thought it had to do with big stars and big names and something they could buy and sell and control because that's their world.
Yeah.
Something else happened. That's what the resonant shock was that went out through everybody that was there. And you can see it in the movie. It's pretty plain. But if you were there, it was very definite.
The spontaneity of it and the innocence brought out the best of human nature.
I think you put it well.
Yeah.
You're not half as dumb as everybody says.
Yes, well, I'm, okay, just a third. Not half, a third. All right, well, I went to see the Byrds in Ohio. You played at a movie theater, and I drove there and watched you guys, and you were fabulous. And then I went to see CSN in Pittsburgh at the big hockey rink there, and I drove from Cleveland and snuck in, and I got to see you guys, and that was a massive influence on me because you guys were so cool and so good. Man, you were so good, and the technology was such. They just set up the mics, and they didn't have great monitors, and there was no in-ears, and mic technique was important, but it was just wonderful blended harmonies.
And Stills was the guitar playing. Got you, didn't it?
Yeah,
Damn, is he good.
yeah,
The guy had a sense of time, a way to play. Now, I know lots of people who can play a lot more notes. I've seen you play more notes than him. But he plays the way you do, man. He plays really for the feel of the thing, you know?
yeah.
And you can tell it, and his sense of time is so exquisite. He swings so damned hard.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. He swings, you know.
Yeah.
It's hard explaining that to people who don't play, but there's people who swing and there's people who kind of just play. It still swings like a big dog, man. He's the main reason I wanted to get out of the Byrds and do something further, because the Byrds was a wonderful band. It did not swing the way Still swings.
Yeah.
Still swings the big stick, and it's really. God, I wanted it. I wanted to swing like that, and man, he always could and always did. And then he wrote those songs, "Love the One You're With," you know, "Carry On," you know, "For What It's Worth," songs to, and they all just had a massive groove to them.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the main advantages we had as a band, was Stills and what he could do with, you know. I still. You know, I think it was an autistic kid that never got diagnosed. I'm pretty sure he was, and I think that it was all hard as hell for him. You know, but I think he was just one of the most talented people I ever encountered. Truthfully, you know, I mean, we butted heads lots, but I got to give it to him. And I don't know if there's too many more talented musicians, singer, songwriter people in the world than him.
Yeah, and the first CSN album. You know, he played everything. To this day, when he picks up an acoustic guitar and sits down with it, I'm speechless, because he plays it like, he makes it like an electric guitar, but it's an acoustic. He uses.
Well, there's that too, but he plays it kind of like he's in love with it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's in love with him. I agree. So then the years go by, and we've had a great ride. You sure have. You just done one thing after another.
You too, man.
Yeah. Tell me about the sailboat days, okay?
Well, there's some good stories here, folks. There was a time when Joe had a sailboat too.
Yes. Oh, I remember that.
And I started sailing when I was a kid, when I was about 11 years old in Santa Barbara Harbor. And I've been doing it ever since. Only recently had to stop. I got too old, too poor. But it's a wonderful thing, man. The ocean doesn't care who you are. There's no star business out there. The ocean's absolutely real. And if you treat it respectfully, you can. It's an incredible world. Sailing, diving, swimming, playing, fishing, all of that stuff. We went out to the Channel Islands, and I know that Joe fell in love with the Channel Islands. He wound up being very connected to the Channel Islands. We had a blast. Many trips out there on my boat. I used to just go out there and stay out there. I'd come into Catalina, get more groceries, and then go back out, dive for another week. It was all pretty fantastic, having your own boat and being able to just go. And I had a friend, Bev Morgan, who had a Radden boat, which is a great boat to dive out of. It's what all the working boats are. So we'd live on my boat and dive out of his boat, and we dove the whole Channel Island chain completely, every place.
Yeah.
When you get in those kelp beds, it's really pretty.
Well, your knowledge of the sea, sailing in general, has always just floored me. Did you really go to Hawaii and all of that?
Yeah.
In your boat?
We sailed down to Mexico, and then we sailed from Mexico to Hawaii, about 3,000 miles. In the middle, we were 1,500 miles from the nearest land. Then from there, I sailed down to Tahiti, which is only about 2,300 miles, but We crossed the equator, and I got to see the Southern Cross, and then we sailed around there for a couple of years, and then back up to Hawaii, more time in Hawaii, and then back up to San Francisco, and then down the coast to Santa Barbara, and a lot. There was a long time to the Caribbean and had it there for years. It's been really good. I got to the point, Joe, where I couldn't support it. I don't make enough money anymore to support that. So I had a choice of either keeping it, but it going downhill, or selling it and ensuring its survival at a high level, which is what I did.
Yeah.
And I miss it a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a very emotional issue for me.
Well, you're one of my great heroes for having done that. I mean, that's just beyond my wildest imagination. Having the knowledge or the courage head out into the great unknown, and I wish I'd have been there with you.
Well, you would have loved it, Joe. Voyaging is it's not as risky as it sounds. You can get charts that tell you the averages of weather month by month. You know when the good weather is. You know when the storm's coming, that you don't go then. Mm-hmm. You plan. You get the thing that you need. You get a replacement for that thing that you need, and then you get parts to build a third one. You have backups in your systems. You plan for it. You treat the ocean respectfully. That's basically the bottom line. Respect it, and you'll be okay. Treat it in a haphazard way, and it will eat your lunch.
Yeah. One thing you told me, which I never forgot, was that you have your sail set right when the women take off their tops.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. That's when you know the boat is working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And they sometimes take off the bottoms too. You may have noticed that.
Well, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with naked girls, Joe. It's okay.
Yeah.
Even my wife understands that.
So, you're making your own music.
I am.
With your son, and I've heard you in concert, and I didn't know what to think, David. I didn't know what to think. You entertained me for the entire show. You played stuff that I wasn't familiar with, but I was mesmerized. I just sat there, and of course you have all these damn tunings that I'm not sure you even know what they are, some of them. But I want to say to everybody, go see David Crosby by himself, because it's an evening of music, and that's got to be rewarding to you.
It is. Yeah. It's the only thing I did right. You understand what it's like when you've been a mess for a long time. It really matters to you how you see yourself now, right? It's really crucial.
Yeah. You
want to believe in yourself. You want to feel that you are at least trying as hard as you can to be a decent human being, right? That's meat and potatoes for me. I really, I know you're familiar. We both went to the same meetings, and I know where I got it. And it's very serious for me. So this doing good work right now, even though we're not being rewarded for it, we don't get paid for records the way we used to. Doing good work right now is just so satisfying, man. It's and yeah, my son James is a big part of. Well, he's one of the two producers. The other one's Michael Leake, who you need to know. He's a wonderful guy, and you guys will like each other tremendously when it happens. Michael does the Lighthouse Band, and James and I just finished another record for Sky Trails Band, and that's the electric one. And man, it's a good record, Joe. I got to play it for you. We got a song on it. Oh, I finally got a set of words out of Donald Fagen. Yay!
You did?
I did, man. I did. It took me 4 years, and I did it.
Nobody else can say that.
It's called Rodriguez Tonight. And it is a killer damn song. We, of course, took it straight to Steely Dan, totally. We horn parts, everything.
Yeah.
And it's really good. Now I got another one that Michael McDonald helped us write with my son, and he sang on. It's a single any way you cut it. I never have singles, but my son can write them. And then I think we got 3 of them on this record. It's a good record. You're gonna like it.
Yeah.
And to feel like at 79 years old, when I'm like at the very
Happy
last part of
birthday,
my
by
life.
the way, a couple weeks ago.
Thank you, bud. Thank you, man. To feel that I can do at the very last part of my life, some worthwhile work, add to the good stuff, man, I feel good. I'm frustrated that I can't go out and work, but I do feel good.
Just to be alive after the lives that we've led is a blessing. And to see you humbly just working at your craft, you couldn't show younger musicians better what it's all about and what matters.
Well, it's what matters to us, but
yeah. And
I take issue with the humbly. I think anybody that knows me is going to argue with you about the humble part.
Well, I see you just working at your craft. You're not out to prove anything. You've done that. You're not out to show anybody how good you are. You just play, and that comes across. And I have nothing but respect for you. And,
I'm having a blast.
And it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. And you're doing a great job. I think we can probably leave it at that. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get into current events, but I think we could leave this version at that. And I got plenty to work with, and we'll have part 2 at some point, and you can tell me about.
Anytime, Joe.
Yeah.
Anytime.
David, thank you. I love you.
I love you too, man.
Yeah.
I'd love to see you when we can.
Yeah, we will. We will.
All right.
Okay.
Take care, buddy.
Thank you.
Adios.
Yeah, bye. I want to thank my friend Michelle Minachakanian at 88.5 for producing and making this show possible. Thank you, buddy.
Joe's old-fashioned rock and roll radio show originates from 88.5 FM in Southern California. Joe Walsh, along with California State University Northridge and Saddleback College, offer this radio program exclusively to public radio stations around the country. Find more info online at 885fm.org.